Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Dossier by Canadian Women Against Antisemitism. I'm Talia. We have Revi here with us. And today we're happy to welcome Umar Muta. Now, Umar Muta was born in Baghdad, Iraq, has lived in India and Malaysia, and before immigrating, you moved to Vancouver, BC, correct? And then now you live in Toronto. And you
That's
said you were just a young un when you moved to Canada.
yeah. Time flies by quickly. Yeah, I was in my early 20s when I moved to Canada.
Oh, okay. Yes, I
Yeah,
guess
I
that,
was I was
yeah.
thinking you were
I
like
was thinking
five.
little, like
Oh, okay.
three. I was three, right?
Yeah, no, I moved by myself. It would have been hard at 5 years old.
Okay, so you came by yourself. That's
That,
very interesting. Now,
that's
you are using your unique perspective, being Arab,
yeah,
coming from Iraq, to advocate on the current conflict. We'll call it the Israel-Hamas conflict.
right.
And that's the perspective you're coming from. So why don't we just dive right in?
Hold on,
Um,
I have a
Yeah,
question first. I have a question
yeah,
first. Um, you reached out to me. So you reached out to me back in December. I think
correct.
that's the first thing I want our viewers to understand. Why? Why did you reach out to me?
It's a really good question, and as much as that you were really kind and appreciative of me reaching out, as an Arabic person that grew up in the Middle East and know the reality of it, I felt like I have the moral obligation to reach out because with everything that was happening, it just felt started to feel wrong not saying anything. In the Middle East, there's I don't want to say two types of Arabic people, but there's the one Arabic side who wants the a peaceful future and recognize what happened and what we did. And there's the other side that is still sort of controlled by a different ideology. The same thing that happened in Canada with recognition of the native land, actually, a lot of the Middle East started to recognize that Israel has the right to be there and the Jewish people have the right of that land. And whatever happened in the past, the mistakes that we did by, exiling the Jewish people that were living in the Middle East and within us. So we've acknowledged that part and recognized Israel. So moving from that and then seeing what's happening now, this is a long version to get back to long story
No, no,
longer.
that's okay.
um,
no, no, it's
you
good.
know, yeah, just sitting back and watching the small minority of Arabic people here that have been controlled by the extremists in, I would say, where it started in Iran, uh, and being used as Muppets, unfortunately, their volume was starting to get bigger and bigger by the local people here that have no idea about the conflict. So as their voices started to get louder, my worry was, how is this going to affect us as Arabic people that don't relate to that and we know the truth? How are the Jewish people going to feel about us living with us? They're going to be our neighbors, our doctors, our teachers. And it really started to worry about, I started to worry about our future as a community together. And if, I don't have kids right now, but if I want to have kids, I don't want another Jewish kid being afraid of my kid because he's Arabic,
Oh my gosh.
and that's really where it started. And, I was just reaching out to as many people as possible to all the Jewish community, October 7 on that day, I was messaging all my Israeli friends in Israel. Um, and reaching out to different Jewish communities. I actually even reached out to CBC, but obviously that didn't go anywhere.
Yeah,
They didn't
obviously.
want to hear that part. So
No kidding.
again, to answer your question, is just I really just what it comes down to it is the one thing is that I just felt like it was the necessary thing. It's just plain necessary. We had to do it.
So, I mean, I have so many questions for you, but
Same.
let's see if we can go in order.
Yeah.
Now you said one little phrase. You said something about, we have to we have to look at what we did, right? Now, I'm wondering, when you said that, my mind goes immediately to the expulsion of the Jews from all the Arab countries,
Yeah,
with Israel's independence. And is that what you were referring to?
that's
Like, how many
yeah,
Jews are left in Iraq now? There's like, it always makes me think of Hillel Neuer saying,
yeah,
Iraq, where are your Jews? And do you want to comment on that?
yeah, absolutely. So I think a big part of being raised in the Middle East is you either have really amazing parents and grandparents that tell you all this story, the full story, rather than skipping one part of the story. So skipping the part of the story that is really what's getting everyone on the wrong side here and supporting terrorists is that, oh, Jewish people took Palestine. Well, how did that happen? What happened before that? And I think I was fortunate to have amazing grandparents and parents that really made it easy for me to question things and really do more digging and find out what actually happened. And came to realize that, there were a lot of Jewish people living within us. They were Arabic, they just had a different religion. We have Christians as well. Those weren't treated nicely either. I mean, things are changing to the positive now. I mean, there's a lot of good ties between a lot of Arabic countries and Israel and the Christian communities. But, back in the 40s, that wasn't the case. And so to get back to your question, and again, it's really just whether you know the full story or just a portion of the story. So people that know the portion of the story were obviously raised with this resentment to Jewish people thinking that they took their land, where in reality, if you do I mean, if you don't want to use Google because you think Google is controlled, and use just pick up books and find out what happened. So I think that's what it really comes down to it.
Umar, can you teach our viewers what an Arab is? Because I think people believe every Muslim is an Arab. I don't think they understand.
Right, right. Yeah, I mean, how much time do you have? I think, you know, Arabic people, like it spans all the way from Iraq to Morocco. And we used to be a very diverse culture that had a huge Christian communities, lots of Jewish communities living with us, and obviously the Muslim communities. Now, with every nation and every country, the control of the Muslim government kind of shifted up and down. But there was a period where they just wanted nothing but Muslims in the Arabic world. And that's because they were really, really strong at that point and they had control, and then they basically just did what they wanted to do. Um, and there's a lot of Muslims all over the world. Not all of them are Arabic. There's a lot of Arabic people that live all over the world. Some are Muslim by culture, and some are Muslim by faith. And the one common thing within us, like Islam, what we stand for peace, which is ironic when we see people using our name into different ways. So I hope that clarifies it for people a little bit. But the one thing that I hope to do with having these open talks is, you know, my Jewish friends they're so kind. They sometimes describe me, oh, he's the good Arab. And I hope one day I can change that to them just saying, oh, he's an Arab and there's bad
That's a
Arabs,
very good point.
and
Yeah.
just shifting that mindset that because our voices haven't been able to come out or have a platform or anything, just being really ignored for a long time in Canada, unfortunately. I can see why they, referred to me as a good Arab. But I hope one day they can say just Arab, and then we can talk about the not so good Arabs. And every culture has the people that are not so proud of. So
Just to follow up with what you were saying, there's people who would argue that the Arab countries have essentially been colonized by Islam. or by Islamists. Let's make a distinction between Islamists and Islam,
Very
or,
cool.
radical Islam.
Yeah.
How would you respond to that? Like, would you say that that's accurate and that that is actually the force that's acting in Israel or attempting to colonize Israel and the rest of the Arab lands?
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, right now, if you go to the UAE or any Arabic country in that region, they're actually starting to ban the Muslim Brotherhood. Those are the ones that are getting funded by the extremist government of Iran. And I mean, from the beginning, we knew as the, let's say, good Arabic people, we knew that this had nothing to do with us, and it was because of the extremist government in Iran that their fear is once the Arabic people and Israel are united, they're going to be in a terrible place. And I think because they really want all Arabic countries to be an extremist Muslim country, but there's a resistance to that, and you can find a lot of Arabic countries right now, like Saudi Arabia is the same thing. They don't want any extremist Muslim in there because they know how that's going to affect the Muslim reputation.
Okay, let's ask a hard question.
Yeah.
So if if we distinguish, let's say, between Arab as an ethnicity and Islam as a faith and Islamic governments that hold sway in, let's say, the majority of the Arab countries, would you, how would you characterize, let's say, grassroots support for the existence of Israel amongst the Arab ethnicity?
Yeah, I mean, again, it just goes back to the Arabic people that recognize the land and the history of it. Um, and, the extremist Muslim government, obviously, they don't want that. I mean, it's exactly why we're in this position that we're in right now, is to fight that unity. So I hope this answers your question, but I think the distinction is just going back to the part of the Middle East that wants a brighter future and just wants to move on from what happened. And there's the other part that just wants to put a massive blanket onto the whole region as an extremist Muslim regime. So,
But so how many Umar Mutas are there?
you know what? I'm glad you asked that. There's actually a lot of them, and I can send you a whole list. There are ones that are doing amazing work. There's a guy actually from Saudi Arabia. There's a Palestinian guy who's my favorite, and I'll send you his Instagram
Yeah, please do.
handle. There are so many amazing people, but unfortunately, uh, they don't reach the algorithm of people here for whatever reason. But I'll make sure to include all the amazing Muslim
Yeah,
people
if you
that
send
are
it to me,
peace
then I can
activists,
share it.
and you'll be quite amazed about and just seeing also the comments on them, how much support they're getting. But unfortunately, they don't seem like there's a lot of them, because we also get attacked when we show any support, and we really, I mean, we try and avoid. Like I remember when you know 2 or 3 years ago now, October 7 happened. I was talking with some of my Arabic friends, and I said maybe we should go and you know go with do one of these supportive walks that. No, I don't want to call it protest, but there was like walks to support Israel. This is before even Hamas. Sorry, before even Israel started retaliating. And they said, all my Arabic friends said, no, 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 I'm too nervous. I feel bad being near Jewish people right now. They probably don't want to see us. And I think there's a lot of that makes the ones that want to show support not really be known, and also the fact that they're also worried about being attacked or being called
Yeah.
things, and so all these things add up to most people, like even in the media, they think that there's most Arabic people are actually on the Hamas side, which is not actually the truth at all. So
We would love the support. I mean, when
yeah,
there was a big in Richmond Hill, there was a huge Iranian rally or protest a few weeks ago. There was 110,000 Iranians out on the street, and you should have seen how many Israeli flags and how many
yeah,
Jews were there to support.
yeah,
So
yeah,
I don't know who you can reach or who you can speak to,
yeah,
but the Jews want Arab support, and we want as
yeah,
much of it as we can get, as outward and
yeah,
as open and as loud as we can get it, because
yeah.
it's very important to support one another right now.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. I mean, you know, like I said, there are a lot of people that are trying to do good work. Unfortunately, their just voices are not being heard. I mean, like I said, one good example is I approached our media channels here, and nothing had happened. So yeah, like I said, it's a tough one. Um, but yeah, like it was quite spectacular seeing the Jewish community rally with the good Iranian people. And it's funny that has a direct correlation with the quietness of the Hamas protest,
Yeah.
because there's a lot of times where I've approached these protests just on my walk, somewhere, and there was one at a farmer's market, and they were sitting in a booth, and I went up to them and I started speaking in Arabic, and they all started smiling like, "Oh, sorry, I don't speak Arabic," and I was like, "Oh, can I speak to an Arabic person?" They're like, and they just looked around, and there were zero Arabic people sitting at that booth.
Yeah, because it's not,
So
it's, it's just
if
not.
we were to go to downtown Baghdad
Yeah,
today,
Oh gosh.
what would be, what would, what do you think we would discover? Would we find that most of the people, most of the, like, let's say the peace-loving villagers, like, are just, are welcome to a more secular, more, co-religional culture, would support the existence of the state of Israel? Like, how much how many Umar Mutars are living in downtown Baghdad today?
very good question, and one I had not thought about. What I can tell you is the ones that are, they will, if you were there and they find out that you were Jewish, they would try and hide you from ISIS, which is funded by the government of Iran.
Oh my God, that's so
The,
scary.
yeah, I mean, but they're hiding from ISIS as well. So the good
Oh,
people of Iraq are suffering from these extremist Islamic groups. And so they know the common enemy is not Israel. I mean, listen, I tell a lot of people when I run them to, protest and have a discussion with them, you don't have to you don't have to support the government of Israel. You just it's just crazy to take a side of a terrorist group. That's the crazy part. So to go back to your question is, yeah, there's a lot of good Arabic people that know the consequences of having an extremist Muslim government, the Muslim Brotherhood. I mean, they live it every day. And I confidently can say they would welcome you with open arms because they know their grandparents had friends that are Jewish that had to leave Iraq.
my father-in-law's Iraqi. It's an
There you
Iraqi
go.
Jew. I had to run away.
Iraqi.
So,
Yeah,
Iraqi, right? Is how you say it?
yeah.
um,
Yeah.
okay, so where is your family? You said you came to Canada on your own. So where are your
They
parents?
live in the Middle East. They live in the UAE.
They live in the UAE.
Yeah.
So they're safe. They're not hiding.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. And do are they also part of uh speaking out? Are they active? Are
You
they,
know,
peace activists like you are?
they're not. They're more into staying on the sidelines and just waiting for this thing to pass because they they feel like this happened before, and I mean, my parents, they don't have any Jewish friends, so for them, it's a little bit of a different generation. Um, and they're just, yeah, they're basically just sitting on this, what, hoping for everything to finish, and hopefully, things go back to semi-normal. Um,
Okay, now when you refer to things to finish, what
mhm.
needs to be finished? Like
Well, I
the
mean,
revolution
the,
in Iran?
the,
Like what are we
I
talking about?
think that's exactly it. That's exactly
Okay.
it. I mean, for since the 80s, the Iranian government had always tried to do things in Iraq. And so, a lot of us, we know, including my parents, they know the Middle East will be it won't be perfect, but it'll be a much safer place once that government is changed. And so that's exactly what everyone is waiting for.
So in their view, the IRGC and Iran is the linchpin that's holding the whole Muslim entity in the Middle East
I
together.
mean, uh, that's absolutely it. I mean, January 8th, 2020, the Iranian government shot down a plane full of its own people. And 2022 to 2023, they tortured teenagers 12 years and around that, even right now. And you really, I mean, unless you're living under a rock, it'll be hard to not imagine that area being a much safer place without our government.
Okay, so you've got the IRGC, you've got the Muslim Brotherhood, you've got ISIS, you've got the Islamic Jihad and Hamas in Gaza. Um, Now, what happens if the Iranian financial spigot gets turned off? Because I suspect that at this point they are running out of money.
Hmm.
And their military capabilities have been significantly depleted. So what does that mean? Let's say for Iraq, etc.
I mean, that's a very complex question, and I feel like there's maybe a handful of people in this world that would give a definite answer, but we can only hope that it has a light in the tunnel, but I think it's just hope. I think it's just one of these things where you just have to wait and see. It's really tough to tell.
I think what I'm
Um,
trying to get from you
okay.
and
Yeah,
the feeling that I'm getting from you, and I think we're all hoping that what you're trying to tell us is true, is
right.
that, the citizens of these countries of, let's say, Syria, Iraq, Iran, um, certainly, the citizenship of in Gaza, etc., um, that they are as invested in throwing off this mantle of the Muslim Brotherhood
Yeah.
as you are. And that if that money, let's say, stops flowing, and if the ideology doesn't have as much water to flow, let's say, that we would see similar revolutions in these countries. Would you think that's accurate?
Yeah, I mean, you saw what happened when the Israeli government took out the Syrian government. They were celebrating on the streets. Um, Hamas is torturing the innocent people of Gaza. They're using them as a human shield. They're torturing them if they spoke up. So, yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're they're just they know the consequences of these really wealthy groups, unfortunately now. I mean, it's like you've been feeding a snake for so long, the snake got huge. So how long is it going to take for it to starve? That's the big question. I mean, there's the leaders of Hamas are the most wealthy people living in Qatar right
Well, the
now.
ones that are still alive anyway.
Right,
Uh,
exactly, exactly. Yeah, yeah.
um,
They're still unfortunately, yeah,
can we talk a little bit about Canada
yeah.
and the Muslim Brotherhood here in Canada? Um, because as we know, some of that money has been coming into Canada. Have you been tracking what's been going on with them and let's call them and their proxy organizations here?
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but it's something that unfortunately I s- I'm not surprised by. I don't want to split the room here, but unfortunately, it's after 10 years of a liberal government, and then people signed up for another 10 years. I mean, it's it's the easiest place for these organizations to thrive. Um,
Why is that?
Because lax rules, just taking people on their word, not doing proper checks. I actually came to Canada during Stephen Harper's time, and I can tell you the screening and the process for immigration was a lot different. And
What was it like? What was it like?
it was a lot more like really trying to actually figure out if this person is going to fit within the society, and what they actually believed in, and what their motives and what they wanted, and how they're going to integrate. And now, well, not now, but the actions of 10 years of switching these, or relaxing these rules, or just looking the other way had made it possible for an ISIS leader to live comfortably in North York, or a
Yeah.
dealership in, you know, west of Toronto that's sending money to Hezbollah, just things like that. It wouldn't be possible if we had a different system.
Can I go back to, you said earlier, to be a good Arab. This is totally off topic. So,
Yeah.
or back in topic. That is something that Jews have been doing, I think, ever since we came to the West, right? We tried for so many years to fit in and to be good citizens and to not do all of the things that stereotypically people libeled against us. And we tried to be good Jews. So what does it feel like right now to and I imagine this isn't new because I think anytime there's a Islamic terrorist attack, you're feeling the same way. But what does that feel like right now to try to be a good Arab? Like that to me, like is such a parallel to what Jewish people go through in many ways. And I think it's really sad to have to hide or try to not be outward about who you are.
Uh, yeah. I mean, yeah, definitely a tough one. You know, uh, it's not easy. I can't even imagine how you guys are feeling, and it just really, to be honest, just truthfully, just pains me for the Jewish community, because I feel like I'm an Arab from a Muslim family, and I feel the acceptance of the anti-Semitism that's happening in Canada. So if I'm the one feeling it, I can't imagine like how your community is feeling. But I just, the one message that I want to relate, like really, I always tell my friends, I'm like, do not let their noise just get in, just put any fear in your mind, because once that happens, they actually win. That's the only thing that they want to do is just embed fear between us. So as much as that it seems hard right now, we just have to just hold on and just not have any fear, and let any fear come between us and our neighbors, or ever. And even if their voices are seem loud right now, they will. I mean, they're already starting to go away. So it's definitely hard, trying to be a good Arab, because I mean what we mentioned about, like, sometimes I feel like it, it feels like a drop in the bucket, what what we're trying to do, but a drop in the bucket is better than nothing. So
Well, I
yeah.
mean, isn't the point, and I I'm going to play a little bit of a semantic game because
Yeah.
I feel like if we talk about the good Jew as being not who we are, then it suggests that the bad Jew is who we are. So I would say that
Yeah.
the conundrum that we find ourselves in is that this stereotype of a good Jew and a good Arab is being law-abiding, peace-loving, open to all other communities and religions is actually who we are. And that when we live openly, so if I like when I wear my Magen David, when my kid son wears his kippah, if you are open about who you are, people assume that you are the stereotype of the bad Arab and the bad Jew, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's so important for us as good Jews and good Arabs to be so open about our identity that people recognize that that's actually who we are and not their bad stereotypes of who they think we are.
That's what I
That's
was trying to say.
that's
Thank you.
you put it in a much more articulate, beautiful way
Yeah.
than my TED talk. So that was very, very accurate. I think the one example that's coming to me right now that me and a few Jewish friends did, like I for a period of time, I would go to the gym wearing a t-shirt that we made that said, I want this show to be
You
for
can swear. We
family. You
swear all
can
the
swear?
time.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. We
anyways,
swear lots. Don't worry.
it said, Kanye, go fuck yourself. But
Oh
it said
yeah.
it, half of it was in Hebrew and then YE, which stands for Kanye. And I wore that to the gym, and you get weird looks. And I wore it in like walking out, and then you get some weird looks. I mean, one guy gave me just shoved my shoulder as we're passing by each other,
Oh.
and but then you just have to not bow down to their noise.
But I think what Taya said is really important because, you know, nobody should feel that they can't be who they are,
Yeah,
right? Whether you're a Jew, whether you're an Arab, whether you're whatever it is that you are, everyone should feel very open to really celebrate their their culture and their religion and their I don't know, their joy. Everybody should feel very comfortable. I hate I hate the idea of kids going to school and feeling like they have to pretend to be something or to hide who they are so that people don't notice them, right? And I feel like what's happening now is doing that to both Jewish and Arab children.
yeah,
And people want to call it whatever they want, but really you've got a bunch of kids going to school afraid that like Arab kids, I know because I've talked to people that these kids are, and even adults, they're being looked at and they think, oh, that person thinks I'm a terrorist, or oh, that person thinks I'm a this, right? And then Jewish people are going to school and kids are being told that they should be raped by Hitler. Little girls are being told that. So when how can we, I don't know, work together to show society that we're not afraid to be who we are, to walk openly and to speak openly and to be openly together?
um, really, really good question and a very heavy question. I think as long as we continue talking and going back to my earlier point is not letting fear be the driving factor, even though their voices seem louder. I can see why that's happening. I mean, unfortunately, it goes up all the way from our federal government to our city officials. I mean, it's absolutely crazy to allow a protest happen in a Jewish hospital. It's crazy. I mean, the whole purpose of people that move to Canada for a better future, especially the Arabic ones, or even the Canadian ones, they all live here based on the idea that you can be whoever you are, and we're all here as a community. But then things like that happen, and you get zero consequences from the government. So once the government and mayors in our cities start to allow things like that to happen, obviously kids are going to think, oh yeah, it's totally acceptable to attack Jewish people because they're the wrong ones right now. They're the ones who are, destroying Gaza, these poor people in Gaza, because that's what's being portrayed in the media. You can hate the states all you want, but at least in the states they have different channels that you can look at and find the truth in the middle. Unfortunately, in Canada, we have one channel that just feeds you whatever you want, whatever they want you to hear.
That's
And
very true. Yeah.
and that's really, really the sad part. Um, that's really, I mean, I feel bad for kids who are being brought up with this idea that Jewish people are bad because of what they're seeing, right? And because what they're hearing from their teachers. I mean, we have professors in U of T right now that are going off books and just teaching their students what they think about the Middle East conflict. I actually had a really, really bizarre interaction with an old neighbor in a building I lived in who was a professor at U of T. I won't say his name, but he was a professor at U of T, which was mind-boggling to the idea to think someone like that with that ideology, who actually happened to be German. And I feel like
Boy.
it's just the ironic part, like if you're German, just knowing the history, you out of all people should just stay out of the conflict in the Middle East. It's just don't pick one side, don't support Israel, but don't support Hamas. Like, and don't tell your students to do that too. Don't make it just about, don't make Hamas as a, what do they give it a term?
Freedom fighters, resistance fighters.
CBC referred to it so-called terrorist group. They don't even say terrorist group, so-called terrorist group. You can find it online. Every YouTube video from CBS, they don't want to admit that Hamas is a terrorist group. They just say so-called. And uh, that really is just trickling down to why, unfortunately, the Arabic kids and the Jewish kids are having a tough time coexisting in this community, unfortunately.
Doesn't that bring us full circle back around to the Muslim Brotherhood?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
they are funding these fellowships and research at the universities.
I mean, I want to hire their PR guy. You know, they they're they're heavy on social media as well. I mean, they really overspend on that sector. I mean, they knew where their target audience is, and unfortunately, for all these social media channels, they don't care what they're spreading. It's just they want to send you what you want to see. So they know what your interests are. They set up an algorithm for you. And so for anyone that is sucked up into that idea, it's just being constantly fed these videos. Like it's a funny story. When I was in Europe a few months ago, and I would go, and sometimes like, if I'm in a train or something, I just scroll through YouTube. And it was bizarre how my YouTube algorithm changed there.
Really?
It just completely changed, and I started to getting different set of videos about how Israel is doing this and Israel is doing that. And again, like to whoever is listening, you don't have to love the Israeli government. Don't support them. Don't be on their side. But just it's just crazy, an absolutely crazy thing to take the side of terrorists. It's just plain crazy.
Well, I think
So
that's the difference, right? We talk about the IRA or the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism, and really, like, you don't have to like your government. I don't have
yeah,
to like the
yeah,
federal government of Canada, but I
yeah,
do believe that Canada has the right to exist.
yeah.
And there's a lot of Israelis and a lot of Jews all over the world that are not happy with the Netanyahu government. but they still have the right to exist as a Jewish nation.
Yeah.
And that is the difference between criticizing Israel and hating Jews.
I think the one thing that I tell the interactions that I had with people that I call them confused or misinformed is they always think they think uh, Israel is bad is because I actually had a discussion with one of my friends who's Canadian. We went back and forth till we realized why he was taking the Hamas side. And his reasoning was, well, Israel is much stronger, so that's not fair. I'm like, okay, so if you're stronger, does that automatically make you the bad guy? The other part, too, is that they believe that Israel took Palestine, where the reality is Jewish people went back home. And that was the switch. And I hope some of them actually went home and did some research to figure out if I'm making things up or not. But yeah, that's really just that's the hope is that people can just do a little bit more research before just watching a quick TikTok and then getting a Sharpie and running to the streets.
Thank you. Thank you
That's a
for
good
that.
last word. I feel like the Jews of
Yeah.
Palestine just came back home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
Just to keep going, so do you feel like with what's going on with CBC and in the universities that uh, Canadians are being actively indoctrinated? And if so, what's the end game?
Yeah, I mean, I wish I had an answer for that. It just it just depends on how much like when it's going to be to a point where like someone like one layer of government has to put a line. Like how much do we have to tolerate? How many things has bad things unfortunately has to happen for us to start taking action? And I think that's the bigger question. I think the CBC side and our channels, unfortunately, that they're just funded by one side, and uh, it is it's too big of a power to try and have any reasoning discussion with them, or at least an open discussion for them to find some truth in the middle. But in terms of governments, and I hope there's one day where they realize where they messed up or where they went wrong, and the results of their I don't want to say actions, but non-actions, like the things that they didn't do, and the results of that started to trickle down in our communities. So I wish I had an answer for you, but it's a tough one to tell. It's tough to see what the future holds for Canada, but hopefully good things.
Umar, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you so much for having me, both of you. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate you reaching out in the first place. I think it's amazing. And I hope that our discussion reaches a lot of people and they realize that we have a lot more in common than has been portrayed.
We're one people. We had a history. All we want to do is live in peace together, and doesn't matter how much it seems like it is hard right now, but we just cannot let them put fear between us. That's the only thing that I just want people to remember. So,
Okay, thank you.
It's a
thank you
great
guys.
last word. Thank you so much.
Have a wonderful day.
You
Take
too.
care.
Bye.
Bye. I really liked him.
I think he's a wonderful human being. I wish that more people like him because I suspect there are a lot more people out there who are
And they're
like him
quiet. And they're quiet.
and they're afraid to come forward.
Well, like we're afraid to come forward. My business has suffered extraordinarily. Is that a word? Because because of being so outward and open about my Zionism and my fight, right? And why should they fight? Because they're probably afraid too that they'll lose their job or that their business will suffer. But I think in the end, sorry, you end up with clients that appreciate you. And like, I don't want to work with people that want me dead anyways, right? But I think we really have to try to reach. The way he said to be a good Arab just made me think of all of the times that a Jewish person did something bad, and I was like, oh, people are gonna hate us because of this.
Well, there's something in the news today, and I
Oh, don't
was
even tell
cringing.
me.
I don't want to tell, and I was cringing. I'm like, what's the guy's name? And I was like, does he belong to a shul? But like, Grok didn't know, so I was just, anyways,
Oh,
yeah, it's
yeah,
like
like there's
it's
two
a
really
Ponzi
bad guys
scheme
in the
thing.
States that everybody knows that I'm not going to mention, and just that they have Jewish last names, that they're Jews. Like I feel sick, and it makes me feel like people look at us and they're like bad Jew,
Yeah.
right? And so I want to walk around like this because I don't want to be the bad Jew. I want to be the good Jew. And
The thing is, the
like
vast
that's
majority
so
of us
scary.
are good Jews.
Huh?
The vast majority of us are good Jews. We're just law-abiding.
99.99999% of Jews are good people, just like a whole bunch of Arabs are like gazillions of Arabs, there's billions of Arabs in the world, are very, very good people, right? And to think that like when he said, like when I have a kid, I don't want my child to go to school and not feel like a good, I'm paraphrasing, but not feel like a good Arab. Like I thought, oh my God, how many years did all of us not really live as outwardly as we do now? And for how many of us was it that fear of the stereotype,
Yeah.
right? I
I
think
think
that's what this episode was about, to be
I
honest.
think the thing that broke my heart was when he said that they were going to come to a rally to support Israel. Probably the one that was at Nathan Phillips Square or Mel
Or
last month.
Bathurst and Shepherd.
Yeah. Well, before, like right on October 8th,
Yeah.
October 9th. And they were afraid to come because they didn't want the Jews to be afraid of them.
Or
That,
hate them. Or they
right,
didn't want to
that
be hated
broke my
on by the Jews.
right. Even like because how would we know that they were good Arabs? We would just
I
they were
fucking
afraid
would have
we wouldn't be
loved for them to show up.
like no, like you wouldn't believe. Like they would have been the most important people in the square, right? I
Yeah.
mean, we would have heralded them beyond everyone.
Yeah, I would have hugged them like crazy.
Yeah.
Like, especially at Bathurst and Shepherd when all that shit was going on with the idiots across the street. Like, could you imagine if we had a whole bunch of Arabs? I was going to say good Arabs, but that's stupid. But a whole bunch of Arabs standing with us?
Yeah. With Iraqi flags, Malaysian flags,
Yeah. Oh my
right?
God.
Pakistani flags. I mean
If
that those
you're
aren't
an Arab
Arab
and you're
countries,
watching
but
this, we want
Egyptian
you.
flags.
Come.
Yeah, Egyptian flags, the Syrian flags. Could you imagine on our side of Bathurst and Shepherd? They would have been the VIPs in the room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. We have to wrap it up because we're going to go over our time. If you're an Arab and you want to be outspoken the way Umar was, please reach out to us. Please reach out to us. We need to make lots of alliances, right? All right. Good night, everyone.
Good
Goodbye.
night.
Have a lovely day. Okay. Bye.
Shabbat shalom.